Hi, boys and girls, welcome back. So today we're going to be reading our anthology story, which is called Valley of the Moon, another historical fiction story. And while we're doing that, I want us to remember the essential question, which is, why is it important to keep a record of the past? And it says, read how a diary becomes a refuge for an orphan girl. So remember, a refuge is a place that you feel safe, where you feel protected. But we also talked about how things can be a refuge for us, right? Like I said, some people go to the gym and they work out, and that becomes a refuge. And some people write in a journal, and that becomes something where they feel protected and safe and share all their emotions and feelings. So, basically, we're going to read this story about how a diary becomes that for a girl. And it's written by Sherry Garland, illustrated by Christina Rodanis. We'll get started. Bigger. Orphaned at an early age, Maria Rosalia and her younger brother Domingo were raised by Padre Ignacio at the Mission Rafael in Alta California. Now the children have become servants at the Medina Rancho. Taught to read and write by Padre Ignacio, Maria Rosalia has recently started keeping a diary about her life at the rancho. October 10th, 1845. Tonight I begin my first diary. The Medina family is asleep and all is quiet throughout the rancho. Only the wind racing through around the corners of the adobe house and the distant yelp of coyotes break the night silence. I'm snuggled in a corner of the kitchen, surrounded by baskets of dried corn waiting to be ground. The tile floors feel cold on my bare feet, but I do not mind, for I know no one else will find me here. This diary is mine because the eldest of the Medina daughters, Miguela, tossed it over her balcony into the courtyard. My fingers quickly rescued it from a watery death in the fountain. Señorita Miguela threw it away in a fit of resentment after it was given to her by an American suitor, Señor Henry Johnston. With flashing black eyes she cried out that a girl has no more use for reading and writing than a snake has for gold earrings. So, can snakes use gold earrings? No, they can't. There's no way. So that's why Señorita Miguela was saying there's no point in me reading or writing, because she thinks that girls shouldn't read and write. Um, she said, we're here. She said the diary was an insult to her beauty and charm, then tossed Senor Johnston out too. I feel sorry for Senor Johnston, or for any man who has the misfortune of courting headstrong Miguel, but I'm not sorry that I now hold her discarded diary in my hand. I must not let anyone see me writing, for I am a servant and a half-Indian orphan, a girl. I am supposed to know nothing but work and obedience. How amazed the Medinas would be if they knew I learned to read and write from a kind old padre at Mission Rafael, many miles from here. Maybe someday I will tell them. So this is around the time when the Spanish had come to California, and they conquered California, and they started to build missions all across California. And so that's a true time in history. And a lot of times during this time, you guys learned about this with Miss Linslow, but a lot of times the Native Americans who were living there, if they didn't become slaves, then they were killed. So that's probably what happened to her parents, or they went to war, right, with the Spanish. So that's probably what happened to Maria's family, right? So she's an orphan. She lost her parents, and it's only her and her brother. So her parents probably died during a war, or maybe they got really sick, because sometimes when the Spanish came, they brought diseases, and the Native Americans, their bodies weren't used to diseases. So her parents may have died because of one of those causes, and now because of that, she's a servant to one of those rich Spanish families. And also another thing is that during this time, there was like arranged marriages, which means that the parents would decide who their children would marry. And a lot of times, in order to have more power and money, they would marry their daughters off to rich, wealthy people who lived here, like in America, white people. And so that's probably what's happening with Miguela and Senor Johnston, right? They're trying to marry her off to him so that they can have more power and money during this time. October 11th. I've been thinking about Padre Ignacio all day. It was he who found Domingo and me 8 years ago beside her dying mother in the rose garden of Mission Rafael near San Francisco Bay. Her body was ravaged with smallpox. That's sickness, right? And I had placed roses over her face. I think I was about 5 years old and my brother was about 2. No one knows our ages for sure. Padre Ignacio named me Maria Rosalia after the Blessed Virgin and because of the roses. He named my brother Domingo because it was a Sunday morning. For a last name, he called us Milagros, for it was a miracle indeed that we did not die of the horrible plague that claimed the lives of so many Indians in Alta California. They say that out of 40,000 Susun people, only 200 lived. Some smaller tribes lost everyone. How Domingo and I survived is one of the many mysteries of my life. When Padre Ignacio found us, we did not speak much Spanish, and he did not know our Indian dialect. But of one thing he was sure. Though our mother had the bronze skin of an Indian, our skin was a light brown of mestizos, half Indian and half Spanish. It was obvious that our father had been a white man, whether he was a wealthy Spanish landowner, a Spanish soldier from Presidio at San Francisco, a Russian fur trapper, or an American merchant sailor, no one knows. Lupita the cook is the closest thing to a mother I have. Her husband, Gregorio, is the head vaquero on the ranch. He oversees the men who tend the cattle and horses. It was Gregorio who found me and Domingo at Mission Rafael 4 years ago and brought us to live at the Medina Ranch. Rancho Agua Verde, Lupita and Gregorio have no children of their own, but have raised several orphans. I know they care about me, yet my heart feels empty. If I do not know my past, how can I plot my future? I must stop thinking about such things and get back to work. If I don't finish grinding the corn, there will be no tortillas tomorrow. So we learned about how her mother passed away, and it was a disease. Sunday, October 12th. I have no place to hide this diary. My room in the servants' quarter is so tiny that I can hardly turn around. I share it with Ramona, the seamstress. We sleep on the woven straw pallets on the floor and roll them up each morning. We take turns sitting on the chair, one chair at the one tiny table. Whoever doesn't get the chair sits on the overturned wooden bucket. The adobe walls and ceilings are stained with black soot from the fireplace and tallow candles. But our quarters are not as bleak as some. Ramona saves scraps of cloth from the sewing projects. Our walls are alive with color. A wool tapestry, one finely embroidered hanging that depicts the Holy Virgin, and another hanging that shimmers with flowers. Even our floor has a wool rug made of remnants from the spring sheep shearing. Pegs line the walls, remnants from for our sparse clothing. Baskets hang from the heavy timber beams for food and miscellaneous items. It is better than the room I shared with 4 other orphans at Mission Rafael. October 13th. The Medina daughter saw me in the courtyard today carrying the diary. Miguela was amused and said I could keep it. Perhaps you might use it for fire kindling, Rosa, she said, with a toss of her black curls. Miguela is 17 and has been available for marriage for 2 years, so that means they get married when they're 15. She is a great beauty, but has ignored all the men who call on her and has refused several proposals. If I were rich, I would pay a man every peso I own to take her away from this ranch. Rafaela, the middle daughter, who is aged 15, is gentle and sweet, but very sickly. She coughs often and her skin is paler than white lilies. She told Miguela not to be so unkind, because I am more like family than a servant. Bless her soul. How I wish her words were true. Gabriela, who's 11 and like a little sister to me, said to just ignore Miguela. Everyone knows how Miguela is, but her words stung me. They hurt her feelings, right? October 14th. I am the goat pen, seizing a moment to write in my diary. I milked the goats faster than lightning so that I might have a free moment. I carry the diary with me all the time, tied to my waist with a sash and hidden under my skirt. I dare not write at night in my room, for Ramona is a light sleeper. I have no ink, so I'm using beet juice. It leaves an uneven, pale red color, but it must do until I find real ink. For a pen, I'm using a sharpened black feather from the tail of Paladin, Senor Medina's favorite fighting rooster. Domingo stole the feather from the chicken coop and gave it to me. All I think of while doing chores is the moment I will open this diary and write. It is my island of refuge in a sea of work. October 15th. Senor Johnston is here again. I like him very much. He speaks to me kindly and does not order me around. He owns a merchant business in the small town of Yerba Buena on San Francisco Bay, south. Being 28 years of age and settled, he is now looking for a wife. He has decided upon Señorita Miguela. May heaven help him, and has visited Rancho Agua Verde many times this year. Senor Johnston is waiting for his brother and family who are coming by wagon train from Missouri to join him in California. They will arrive first at Sutter's Fort in Sacramento Valley, where Johnston will go to meet. A few years ago, there were very few foreigners in Alta California, just some sailors and fur trappers. Now they come in a steady stream, mostly farmers from Missouri. There are hundreds of them, especially in the Sacramento Valley, northeast of here. Oh, it's the same. Lupita does not trust the Norteamericanos. She says they are supposed to become loyal Mexican citizens, learn to speak Spanish, and become Catholics in exchange for land, but not all of them do as they agreed. She especially disliked the foreigner Joan Sutter, who encourages other foreigners to come to California illegally without permission from the Mexican government. There are already squatters in Senor Medina's lands. Lupita thinks they will take over Alta California before long. I do not care what Lupita says. I like Senor Johnston, even if he is an Americano. He is besides himself. He is beside himself with excitement about his brother's arrival. That means he's really excited. But he is worried. The snows will soon start to fall on top of Sierra Nevada mountains to the east, causing deep drifts and icy rocks that make the passes treacherous to cross. If the Johnston family does not clear the mountains by the end of the month, they are surely doomed. October 16th. Spent a pleasant morning working in the courtyard that is surrounded by the thick walls of the Casa Grande on Forsyth. I wonder if the Medina house will ever be completed. Every year the Indian workers add a bit more. When the main house was first built, it was a simple one-story structure like nearly all the ranchos in northern Alta California. But after Senora Medina and Miguel saw the grand rancho that General Vallejo was building at Petaluma, a few miles away, they insisted on having a second story with balconies and rambling rose vines. At the moment, only the Medina family has upstairs bedrooms and balconies. Everyone else, servants and guests alike, sleep downstairs. I do not mind, for walking up and down those stairs makes my legs ache. Drew 10 buckets of water from the well to tend the herbs, beans, squash, pumpkins, melons, and onions, and hot chiles in the garden near the kitchen door. Swept the veranda that is roofed with brown clay tiles, pruned the rambling Castilian roses that climb up the posts to the upstairs bedroom balconies, picked late maturing pears from Senor Medina's cherished fruit trees. So what are we learning about this through these diary entries that Maria is making every day? What are we learning about her? What are we learning about her life? About how she works? About who she works for? The people she works for? The life she's living? So those are a lot of questions that get answered when we read stories about the past. I'm tired, but I'm writing during siesta while everyone else rests. Writing brings me more joy than sleep. Nothing would make me happier than to write all day and all night. October 17th. Madre mia, my secret is uncovered. While I was in the courtyard writing in my diary today, Senor Johnson appeared, and out of nowhere, I was afraid he would be angry that I had it, but his large blue eyes grew wide like an owl's. He said to me in his best Spanish, which I'm sorry to say is not very good, Rosalia, I cannot believe you are writing. How did you learn such skills? I begged Johnston not to tell anyone, for it would only mean trouble for me. I explained how Padre Ignacio taught the Indian boys at Mission Rafael to read and write. He let me sit quietly at the back of the room, and I helped Domingo, who detested lessons and being indoors. The California missions were closing down anyway, and the Padre did not care if the rules said girls did not need an education. He said if a girl wanted to read and write, he would not stop her. He was very generous and tolerant when it came to the mission Indios. Johnston was so astonished that he dug into his leather saddlebag and handed me a bottle of ink, a very nice brass point, and 2 turkey quills. Now the ink flows onto the pages almost as fast as I think of words. So now she has ink to write in her journal. So that's the end of our story. In your writing prompt, I believe I asked you, why is it important for us to read about the past? What are some things that we learned from the past? And why is it important that we learn from the past? So keep that in mind you're while you're writing and while you think about all of these stories that we've read so far, right? Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can message me on Google Classroom or on Skype. Let me know if you need anything. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.